Alright, so Unit 4, topic number 2, is about the sum of the interior angles. And we know that interior means inside, okay? So if we think about the most common polygon that we know, a triangle, how many angles inside does it have? 1, 2, 3. What do we know about their sum? Angle 1 plus angle 2 plus angle 3, we know is 180 degrees already, okay? So the formula that we discovered in class is all about making triangles, right? How many triangles in a given polygon can I make? And I take that 180 degrees and multiply by the number of triangles, which in this case becomes n minus 2. And n is going to equal the number of sides. So there's always 2 less triangles than the number of sides. Let's prove that looking at this word and interpret this formula. Okay? If I look at this polygon here, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. Let's pick one of its vertices, and let's see how many triangles we can create. I'm going to draw one line to this vertice, one line here, and one line here, and I've just created 4 triangles. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we know that n was 6 because there were 6 sides in this polygon. And let's look at this formula. SI equals 180 times n minus 2. What we're going to do, n is 6, so let's plug that in. 180 times 6 minus 2. Well, what is 6 minus 2? 6 minus 2 is 4. So this is really 180 times 4. And notice, I'm doing 180 times the number of triangles. There were 4 triangles that I could create. In each of those triangles, each of them is 180 degrees. So I have 180 degrees 4 times. And I believe when you do 180 times 4, you get 720. So I'm taking the number of triangles and multiplying that by 180 degrees. Let's look at a couple of examples now and actually apply this. So a little bit quicker through this example. Number 1 says, what is the sum of the interior angles of a decagon? There are 3 important words I want you to circle. Sum, interior, and decagon. The sum of the interior tells you that you're going to use this formula. SI equals 180 times n minus 2. The decagon tells me the number of sides. It tells me that n is 10, and I can plug that in for my n right here. So this becomes 180 times 10 minus 2. Well, 10 minus 2, that's 8. 180 times 8. You might need a calculator for this. I do. 180 times 8 is 1,440. So the sum of the interior angles is 1,440 degrees. Let's look at example 2. Example 2 is only asking for what is the measure of angle n. So I want to know this angle measure right here. Now the tricky part about this problem is it doesn't tell you to calculate this first. But I have one missing angle in a polygon, and I actually know what SI is. I don't know it off the top of my head, but we can figure it out. Let's use our formula. SI equals 180 times n minus 2. Well, what's n in this case? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Did I do that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, n is 7 in this case. So I'm going to plug in 7 for n, and then I'm going to simplify. 180 times 5. Well, what's 180 times 5? That gets me 900. So the first thing you want to do is find the sum, and I know that the sum of all 7 angles here is 900 degrees. Then I can take the given angles. I can do 145 plus 130 plus 135 plus 160 plus 153 plus 115. Add those, and when I add those, I get 838 degrees. So that's my second step. I find the sum, I add all the given angles together, and then just like we did in the last unit, I take this sum, 900, and I subtract the given angle. So 900 minus 838 gets me 62 degrees. So I know that the measure of angle N was 62 degrees. And just to double check, why don't you take all of the angles in this heptagon and add them together? 62 plus 145 plus 130 plus 135 plus 160 plus 153 plus 115, and that equals 900, so I know that I am correct. All right? Let's look at example 3. Example 3 is a little bit different. This time, it says solve for x, and then find the measure of angle A. So this is a two-step thing, a two-step problem. Whenever we solve for x, we need some type of equation. They didn't really give me anything in the directions, but they did give me stuff in the diagram. They gave me this shape with all these interior angles labeled as different expressions. So I don't know that any of these are congruent. They didn't give me tick marks or a congruent statement, but we now know how to figure out, well, what is the sum of the interior angles? How many sides are there here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in this case, N is 5. And let's calculate SI. 180 times 5 minus 2. That's 180 times 3, which gives me 540. So the equation that I can set up is I can add all of these angles together. 2x plus 3x plus 2x plus 1 plus 4x plus 3x minus 21. And when I add all the angles together, I know that that's going to have to equal 540 degrees. Now, how do I solve this equation? It's a little bit more complicated. Let's combine like terms. The terms with x's, 2x and 3x, and 2x, and 4x, and 3x. Let's add all of those together, and then I have a plus 1 and a minus 21. And what does that become? 2x plus 3x, that's 5, plus another 2 is 7, plus another 4 is 11, plus another 4 is 14. So I have 14x plus 1 minus 21 is minus 20, and that's going to equal 540. And now this is an equation that we know how to solve. Add 20 to both sides, I get 14x equals 560. Divide by 14 on both sides, and we get 40. So x is going to be 40. And there's one of my answers. I have now solved for x. It also asks me, what is the measure of angle A? Well, angle A is right here. We know once we have x, we can take that x and plug in. 2 times 40, that's 80 degrees. And there's the measure of angle A. All right, let's look at number 4, our very last question. I'm going to kind of separate this off. Number 4 says, a polygon has an interior angle sum of 1,800. What type of polygon is it? Show your work. Let's again identify those important words. It's telling me we're talking about interior angles, and it's telling me we're talking about a sum. This question right here, what type of polygon is it? That what type is also going to say, we could also could have said classify, which means I need to know how many sides does this polygon have. Notice we're kind of going a little bit backwards here. We've been knowing the number of sides and figuring out the sum, and now we're going to be given the sum and we're going to work backwards to find the number of sides. So let's start off with the equation that we know about the sum. I know that SI equals 180 times n minus 2. Well, they told me the sum, so instead of plugging in for n, I'm going to plug in for SI. I'm going to say 1,800 equals 180 times n minus 2. Well, now let's solve this equation. I'm going to distribute and get 1,800 equals 180n minus 360, and then solve. add 360 to both sides, and I'm going to get 2,160 equals 180n, and then divide by 180, and that's going to give me 12. So I know that there are 12 sides, but what type of polygon is this? Let's classify it. That means that this is a dodecagon. And I am done. Okay? So there are a lot of numbers. Make sure you're keeping track of your calculations using a calculator and showing all of your work. Good luck.